Good morning, all, depending when you're watching this. Good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told how to voice radio. So today, I am showing you a new Pokemon trading card game deck. Well, kinda new deck that just won at the Malmo Regional Championships just yesterday over in Sweden. It was piloted by Adam Hawkins, and it's a new take on an old deck that could be about to get really, really good. And what's interesting is it beat a very similar deck in the final. Now, obviously, it's a Zoroark deck. All of these decks are Zoroark decks. And of course, we've got Zoroark GX that we shouldn't need to spend too much time on at this stage. You've got Riotous beating double colorless energy, which is nice, 1 energy, and it does 20 damage for each Pokemon you've got in play, 150 with a full bench and a choice band against an EX or a GX, and of course the Redonkulous trade ability, discard a card from your hand to draw 2. But what's different about this deck is twofold. First of all, because of the old Ultra Prism, I say old Ultra Prism, that's just me being an Englishman, I do of course mean the new Ultra Prism. It was legal, the new set, for the very first time this weekend. And apparently it turns out Weavile is pretty good. Now, I did talk about Weavile yesterday in my counters to Zoroark deck, but I did also warn you that, yeah, it's best played with Zoroark. Now, Weavile here, it really is the attack Evil Admonition. For a single darkness energy, 50 damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon that has an ability. So if they've got 3 Pokemon in play with an ability, you do 150. Add a choice band, you're doing 180. And of course, that'll get a KO on a Tapu Lele. And speaking of Tapu Lele, that is of course one of the main Pokemon we're going to be seeing at the moment, because everyone's playing multiple Tapu Lele. But then having said that, fire decks, well, they're all playing Volcanion EX. And Gardevoir's really popular at the moment, and Gardevoir is usually played with Gallade. And let's not forget the fact that pretty much every deck that isn't playing Zoroark is playing Octillery to draw some cards instead, except for the few that are playing Oranguru, and you see where I'm going with this. Abilities are everywhere at the moment. We are in an exceptionally ability-heavy format, and that means that a Pokemon like Weavile can really take advantage. But then, of course, you get into the situation where you have to play Darkness Energy. And as soon as you're playing Darkness Energy, Zoroark Break comes to mind. Zoroark Break is a crazy good Pokemon that's just a bit awkward to use. Because it's Zoroark Break and not Zoroark GX Break, you can't evolve Zoroark GX into Zoroark Break, which means it's taken a bit of a back seat. But for a single Darkness Energy, you can just copy one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks. That's really good, and this could include a GX attack, although it would have to be your only GX attack of the game. So let's say you're against something like a Ho-Oh, for instance. Well, that's alright, because you can just copy Ho-Oh's attack, and Phoenix Burn does 180, so if you add 10 damage, maybe with a choice band, maybe something like a Reverse Valley, for instance, then all of a sudden you're doing 190, and you're getting a KO on Ho-Oh. So now you've got a built-in counter for a whole bunch of Pokemon. Ho-Oh's just one example, there are plenty of others. And of course, if you want to play Zoroark Break, like previously mentioned, we are going to need a non-GX, regular, ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill baby Zoroark, hey Nick, that we can use to evolve into a Zoroark GX. And we got the one from Breakthrough. Mind Jack is quite a good attack, 10 damage plus 30 more for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Really good, especially in a format where stuff like Zoroark GX is running around needing a whole bunch of bench Pokemon. And then you've got the ability Stand-In that just allows you to jump into the active, although interestingly enough does make it a liability when you've got Weavile running around on your opponent's side of the field. And that's what makes this Zoroark deck different. You're not playing around with stuff like Gardevoir or Golisopod. It is an actual Zoroark deck. You're playing Darkness Energy. You could actually use Zoroark GX's GX attack, Trickster GX, to just copy one of your opponent's attacks, not unlike the foul play we see on regular Zoroark. But then, of course, you've got Weavile in there as well. Being able to use Zoroark Break, being able to use Weavile, using the non-GX Zoroark. Not only do you get access to a load of really good attacks, but you also have a whole bunch of non-GX single-price Pokemon with which to attack. And that is what makes the difference and makes this deck so gosh darned good. If your opponent uses too many abilities, in comes Weavile. If your opponent benches too many Pokemon, in comes Zoroark. And then there's a whole bunch of Pokemon like Ho-Oh that just don't have much of an answer to Zoroark Break. And then you've still got Zoroark GX, who's proven to be the best Pokemon in the format. Now, maybe you are a little bit weak to fighting, maybe you're a bit weak to Buzzwole decks, but having said that, this won a big regional where there are many Buzzwole and fighting decks running around, so clearly this deck has what it takes to beat them. I mean, speaking of Zoroark's foul play, if you look at Buzzwole, Knuckle Impact 160, copy it with a Choice Band, oh look, Zoroark can get a one-hit KO on a Buzzwole for 2 prizes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is nothing to be sniffed at. Now, looking at the rest of the deck nice and quickly, now that we've seen how the deck works and what makes it special, we'll have a quick look at the other cards played here, just for completionist's sake. There was a copy of Tapu Koko. You're playing double colorless energy anyway, being able to spread 20 damage and then clean up with the rest of your Pokemon, always a fun thing. Tapu Lele, of course, is in there just for the Wonder Tag ability that allows you to search for your supporter cards. And even though you've got an answer to Buzzwole with Zoroark and the break, it still takes a bit long to get that going. So there's a copy of Mew EX in there, which is just a really easy counter to Buzzwole as a basic Pokemon with a double colorless energy, copy Riotous Beating, and then you've got the KO and life is good. In terms of energy, you are of course playing double colorless because, well, pretty much all your Pokemon other than Weavile really rely on double colorless. And in terms of trainers, we see a few slightly unusual things. We do see a couple of Evo Soda, which, to be fair, is about standard in these lists nowadays. A lot of lists have started playing it. It's just too good to get Zoroark GX out so you can start using the trade ability. We see one copy of Devoured Field. Like I said earlier, you do sometimes need to do a little bit of extra damage. I use the example of Reverse Valley, and they're very similar. They both mean that your Darkness Pokemon do 10 more. Devoured Field means that Dragon Pokemon also do 10 more. Reverse Valley means that your opponent's Metal Pokemon take 10 less damage, and it essentially gets rid of any good you did from Reverse Valley. Given that Dragon Pokemon are not big at the moment, but Metal Pokemon are seeing play, certainly Duskmane the Necrozma was seeing a bit of play this weekend in Malmo, then at the moment you do go Devoured Field over Reverse Valley. We also see free Cynthia, free N, 1 Professor Sycamore in this particular list. And the reason is, you don't want to be discarding stuff. You don't want to be discarding double colorless energy because it's hard to get it back. N and Cynthia are shuffle draw supporters. You don't lose resources, you just change them. Whereas Professor Sycamore, you have to discard. I predicted that Cynthia was going to become a staple before rotation. A lot of people hit back. Every list I've seen so far has had at least 1 Cynthia in. And then what do we see? Big tournament, biggest tournament in Europe, the weekend that Ultra Prism becomes legal, and oh look, the winning deck is playing free Cynthia, 1 Professor Sycamore. This is something to keep an eye on. I think Cynthia is going to become more and more widely played as we go through, even before rotation. A lot of people hit back on that. I still feel confident. Thank you, Adam, for, showing me the way. Now, of course, here is the entire list on the screen, and everything else there is about standard. Obviously, we see Puzzle of Time, which is super good at reusing your resources. We see Field Blower, which is quite handy just because Garbodor is still a thing. You need to get rid of that tool to turn your abilities back on. Nothing else there is particularly exciting, although obviously you've got to give a shout out to Mallow, because putting any 2 cards at the top of your deck, then using trade is still an amazing thing you can do. And you see Professor Kukui here as well. this actually was quite good. One of the things I saw on the stream this weekend was a Weavile getting a KO on a Zoroark when the opponent only had 3 Pokemon with abilities in play. Weavile does 150, add Choice Band is 180, add Kukui is 200, add Devoured Field is actually 210 when there's only 3 Pokemon with abilities on your opponent's side of the field. That was a surprise that really swung the game in Adam's favour. I love this deck list. I think it's really good. It's definitely going to be copied, and it's definitely going to see play in the future. Zoroark is going nowhere, but ladies and gentlemen, it's got some new friends. Now, as always, I do want to hear from you guys about this, so do let me know in the comment section what you think about this deck. Are you going to play it? Do you think it's here to stay? Go nuts! But be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWossy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and so on, you can do so over at patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.